A memoir of the civil rights movement. Tell the story. Charles McDew with Beryl Gilfix. I'm smiling as I read this cover and I look at the pictures of our history and of a friend. I'm struck by history, my dad being a history professor. I'm struck by history, Chuck McDew, Beryl Gilfix, are friends and family to me. Their story, the story told in the book, Tell the Story, is ours, is relevant, is living history. So I'm looking at these pictures of my friends organizing and wondering what the story tells. And I thought, what if we just took time to read each day some of this book and we told the story. We helped tell the story. So here I go. I'm starting on page 33, and it's called Orangeburg Movement for Civic Improvement. What does Greensboro have to do with me? January 1960 passed slowly at South Carolina State. The evenings were long, and I didn't seek outside entertainment. I had promised my father that I would remain on the campus so that I could not get into any more trouble. I felt I was serving out a sentence until the end of the semester, sentenced to the campus of South Carolina State, when my father would come and pick me up and we would return to the North. On February 1st, 1960, the campus was rocked with the news of the Greensboro sit-ins, the audacity of fellow students in nearby North Carolina demanding service at lunch counters. The student body was electrified. I walked back to my room after watching the evening news on TV. A knock at the door interrupted my reading. "Hey, Chuck, we'd like to talk to you about the Greensboro sit-ins. We'd like to do that here. What do you think?" "What do you mean, what do I think?" The speaker for the Committee of Three, Tom Gaither, took a deep breath. "Do you think we can do it here?" "Sure, go ahead. What do I care what you do? I'm leaving for Ohio in a couple of weeks. These white people are all clinically insane. They are crazy, and you all are not wrapped too tight for putting up with them. You are all crazy down here, and you're busy keeping each other crazy. But I don't have to put up with it. In a few weeks, I'm leaving for Ohio, and I am never coming back. So you and the white folks have a good time." "We're from Claflin, and we believe that the time has come to act on what we believe. It's time the folks here realized we have rights the same as everyone else. We want to organize those people who feel the same way we do." "If you're from Claflin, what are you doing here in my room? And what do you want from me?" Claflin was a private black Methodist school next door to South Carolina State. One of the trio responded, "We heard about your scuffles with the law. We know you don't take stuff from white folks. We know you're not afraid to speak up to white folks. We're asking you to be the leader, Chuck. You could talk to people here at South Carolina State, and we need someone with some guts to head us up. We're willing to commit ourselves to do something." The students from Claflin didn't ask me to join them. They asked me to lead them. Rabbi Hillel changes my life. I asked for some time to think about it. The door closed and I sat staring out the window. Hey, it's not my problem, I thought. I have a few weeks to get through and then I'm out of here. I will never pass this way again. While I sat there, I happened to pick up the Talmud and read Rabbi Hillel's famous dictum. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am for myself alone, what am I? And if not now, when? Reading that passage and thinking about it changed my life. The lines stuck. I could not forget them. After several hours of hearing the verse turn itself around and around in my head, I decided I really couldn't divorce myself from the problems of Black people who were in the South. Just because I could get out, many never would. It was a lonely decision, one arrived at in solitude, and it was a very individual commitment. I felt a responsibility to help since I had been asked, and I knew I'd been asked because I had the reputation that he doesn't take any shit from white people. I didn't ask anyone to come with me to do anything. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? I thought about it in terms of if you didn't strike a blow now for justice, for equality, for fairness, for moving ahead, both for yourself and for your people, when would you take a stand? If I am only for myself, what am I? I came to understand that my selfishness, my self-aggrandizement would not help the race along. And if not now, when? We were facing the difficulties that we face now and the hurdles that we had to overcome now because our parents and grandparents had not effectively dealt with the problems they had faced. And if we didn't face those problems now, our children, yet unborn, would have to face the same battles we face now. If you were ever going to take a stand for that which is right, when do you do that? Do you do it when you were more secure and had more money? Well, you would not have the money or the opportunity if somebody before you hadn't done something. We are where we are in the world not solely because of individual talent and drive, but because others before us had made a stand to remove some barriers, to build ladders to greatness, and to push aside the barriers and push aside the obstacles that made it easier for me to do what I wanted to do. That struggle was a human struggle that had always gone on. People were always pushing ahead to find greater opportunities for freedom and self-expression. Once you decided that you were going to do that, you do it. And now, not later. Having read those lines and thought about them carefully, I made a commitment to the cause. There was no clap of thunder, no voice coming out of the clouds. It was just the logical conclusion. My mother had taught me, you have to stand for something. I had been given the knowledge of what is right, and now I have to do what is right. Here are those kids in Greensboro, and your response is a sarcastic, selfish one to the students who asked for your leadership? All those attitudes, plus running into the cops or standing up to school administrators, a lot of kids admired me and wanted me to lead them in this thing. It was both a very selfish attitude. I don't care what anybody else says or does or thinks or feels, but they cannot treat me like that. If something gets in my way, I will address it. That's part of my loner personality. Their rules and their laws got in my way, So I had to change it. That was that. But the other side of the coin was more altruistic. I could get out, but millions of my black brothers and sisters could not. I thought about the fact that black people always nodded and said hello to each other on the street, even if we didn't know each other. It was to acknowledge that we were a community, that we were all together, strangers in a strange land surrounded by strange people. You had to acknowledge each other in case something happened and you needed the support of other black people. I didn't get where this would lead. I didn't think I was going to spend the rest of my life in the struggle. That evening, I called home. As you well know, I've acquired this reputation for standing up to people like cops and administrators. Because of all those things, some kids here see me as the leader type, and they want me to lead them in demonstrations, like have been happening in Greensboro. I'll get kicked out of school. Because of all those things, some kids here see me as the leader type, and they want me to lead them in demonstrations like have been happening in Greensboro. I'll get kicked out of school. There's no question about that. A couple of years ago, some people tried to integrate the public library, and they were kicked out before they even got back to campus. I'll come home. I'll work for Republic Steel. I'll get the money back that you laid out for tuition. I'll get kicked out of school. There's no question about that. A couple of years ago, some people tried to integrate the public library, and they were kicked out before they even got back to campus. I'll come home. I'll get the money back that you laid out for tuition. I'll go to night school at Kent State. But I got to do this thing. There was a pause, a whispered conference in Massillon, and then my parents told me, the role of a parent is to prepare a child to make wise decisions about themselves. That's how we raised you. We love you, and whatever you do from this point on, we'll stand beside you. It was fantastic that my parents supported me immediately and unconditionally. That gave me a lot of courage to go forward, knowing that they understood what I was doing and why, and they respected the decision I had made.